I'm an ecological artist. I am very fortunate to have citizenship both in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and the home of my ancestors here in Ireland. So I've lived in Ireland since the late 90s, and I was lucky enough to start, I suppose, combining my creativity with environmental concerns in Mohill in County Leitrim way back then, and it's influenced my work to today. As I've mentioned, I was born in Aotearoa, New Zealand, so up until about the age of 30. It still colours my worldview. I was very lucky that on holidays I went to near pristine forest conditions, rainforests in New Zealand, which were really rich in species, their own weather system, just very, very beautiful forests. So when I came to Ireland, my sensitivity was really heightened to what was missing here. And even though Ireland is advertised as being this beautiful green countryside, to me it's like a shifting baseline. People have got used to green fields and sort of monoculture forests, particularly in Leitrim, when that's not really a healthy, thriving ecosystem. And I was really interested in the culture of forestry. How do people relate to forests? We've become very alienated and disconnected from the natural world. My mum has a funny story. My late mother, she said as a baby, to stop me crying, she put me out on a blanket near the edge of New Zealand forest, and the birds kept me entertained. And I worked on this very tiny 4 or 5 people working on this community reforesting island project with hedgerow awareness, and I found it was so meaningful. It was so exciting to collaborate with others, and I think I have had an advantage in awareness that we are in an ecological emergency because of my background in science. But I'm also really passionate about teaching other creative people what the ecological emergency means for their practices and how rewarding it can be as well. I don't really think of myself as a studio-based creative person. I use cameras, I do video work, I self-curate on a blog. So I'm in a rural situation, I'm not near many sort of contemporary art galleries. So it's sort of a natural way for me to, I suppose, document my project called the Hollywood Forest Story. That began, I live in 2 acres of monoculture woodland, transforming it to a mixed species forest, and it's ongoing. It's going to take several hundred years to really become a thriving, biodiverse, resilient forest. So I'm part of this, I suppose, national story to reimagine and re-envision forestry here in Ireland. The other thing that I'm finding is that art educators are bringing art students to my little woodland for a walk around the woods. So really my studio is in the living forest. I actually found it really, really difficult to develop an ecological art practice, even though there have been really pioneering people in this field. But I was sensing that we needed to reorient creativity to think about the well-being of ourselves and others, but also, I suppose, planetary well-being, thinking about the ecosystems that we live with and that support our well-being. So over time, my relationships with professionals grew, and I kept my eye on ecological art practice developments and research. And then one day in 2008, I realised that where my husband and I live in a tiny monoculture woodland, it's only 2.5 acres, that I had the perfect trial plot to test out ecological art practice and this new type of forestry. So I just took a deep breath, didn't tell anybody, started blogging, started making small films, and then I started inviting interested neighbours who also wanted to rethink how they could reforest their lands, and it grew from there. So little steps. I was nominated to the International Network of Ecological Artists. That community inspires me, and now I'm in the position where I'm teaching. People are coming to me maybe with quite significant art careers themselves, and they inspire me back now, so that's really nourishing. I've been working recently in advisory capacity for a creative wetland community restoration project. What I'm noticing is that ecological art practices progress really well when people are open to change, when they're open to reimagining what creativity would be, enabling everybody to be included regarding where they live, whether it's a river or a forest. You can get other artists involved, you can get people who don't normally do arts. It's sort of like a community practice, but with a focus personal to planetary well-being. I suppose since I'm here in the dock in Leitrim, I'll talk about my forest project, the Hollywood Forest story. I was really inspired working here with environmental ranger for the area and also an activist who brought people together and quite a lot of funding to think about permanent forests with native species. And it really exists as a living work. The forest itself is changing with new species there. The birds are eating the berries and new species, native species are just popping up by themselves. I've chosen a blog format for my work because I found myself as a question-based practice, but often ecological practices are, there's this ongoing questioning of your practice, of what we could do better with our relations to our communities and environments. And I found that I needed a space to house my reflections, but also the photographs and the videos and the interviews. And because it was a longitudinal, still going on over many years, I found it difficult to think about it being housed in a gallery situation. So that gave me a bit of freedom to just explore my own way. But I did start off really nervously. When I reflect back, I do enjoy drawing the symbols of Maori korus, the ferns, the waves, the energies of nature, and I've actually used that in my logo, which is sort of universal. The spirals are here in Ireland. When I think back to my high school years doing art, it was very representational. Draw plants, draw things you see around you, but it wasn't really, the art didn't seem to be situated in anything meaningful or with a purpose. And now the thing that I find with the work that I'm doing now, it's so meaningful, it's so rewarding. So we've got to move from this human-centric and personal well-being way of living to think about personal well-being, collective well-being and planetary well-being. So thinking about the quality of our rivers and our air and our forests, bringing everything onto the table as it should be.